Okay, well, welcome to our Wednesday afternoon uh, meditation session. So, today, as I was preparing for this and thinking about our session, over the weekend, I've been doing some reading, and it's a book called The Tao of Physics, which kind of compares some of the insights in Eastern philosophy with some of the advancements in quantum physics and relativity theory. I'm not much on physics, but the author does a reasonable job of making it available to the layperson, so to speak. I think that was interesting. But in there, there's a quote. Well, in there's actually, he talks a little bit about how in both um, meditation and in kind of Buddhist thought and in physics, that trying to explain the phenomena with language is very, very difficult and in some ways almost impossible to really try to convey it. And I thought that was kind of interesting because one of the things we always talk about when we meditate is how it is about the experience, regardless of how much we talk about it or explanation or read about it. It really still is about the personal experience that you have, which sort of transcends the ability to describe what is happening inside of us as we do this, which in my experience, I think is very true because after having done it for a while, it's sort of like the changes or the way I look at things. It is very difficult to explain, and when I do, sometimes I feel like there's some level of inadequacy to my explanations. But one of the things that I thought was interesting in it, there was a quote that I really liked. So I just wanted to share that. And it says, "The instant you think about a thing, you miss the mark." And the way that I interpret that to some extent is that when we try to take something like our internal processes, like meditation, like how it affects us, and we try to describe it with some concrete words, we already start to define it in a way that is different than it is. And so I just thought that was kind of interesting because I spend a lot of time trying to talk about meditation in ways that will make sense, both to myself as well as to anybody who has either the good fortune or the bad luck, depending on how you want to look at it, to have to listen to me. So I just thought that that was kind of interesting. And as I was doing my own meditations, I was really in my mind trying to almost meditate on that idea. Um, so that's kind of where I left things. So we'll sort of leave it off there and we'll begin our meditation from that perspective. So, all right. So to begin with, we'll start as we often and always do, just sitting back, taking a nice, long, slow, deep breath and breathing in and breathing out. And following our breath as it comes in and following our breath as it comes out. We feel our lungs expand and our lungs contract and our belly rise and our belly fall. And so we get ourselves grounded and settled, and we slow ourselves down, and we feel our chair or our bed or the floor or wherever we're sitting, and we feel the contact points between the chair and our bottoms and our backs and our arms laying on our lap. And we focus on those sensations. And we focus on the temperature in the room. We feel the air. And so we ground ourselves and we get ourselves settled and we sit and we slowly breathe in and we slowly breathe out. And in and out. And as we think about the movement of our mind and the slowing down of our mind, I think about the image of a fan or propeller as it turns, like in an old airplane, where you could see the propeller and flip it and it turns and that helps the plane fly. And what I think about is as we take the propeller in our hand, or if someone does, and we get it started and it's moving very slowly, we can see each of the propellers going. So if there are 4 or 6 as they go around, as in a fan, we can see the individual propellers as they rotate. But as it starts to go faster and faster and faster, it just becomes one mass, as if there's a solid propeller just constantly spinning, and there's no space in between any of those things. And as I sit back and see that image and I watch the spinning of the propeller on the airplane or the fan or in any place where you would see one, even a windmill that was moving really, really quickly. And I think about the movement of my mind. And I think about when my mind is slowed, as we work towards, as we meditate and slowing everything down, I can see and feel and sense each individual thought as it arises. And I can see it in front of me, and I can see it moving away. But oftentimes, I can remember or I can experience my day as that propeller moving at a high speed, 100 RPMs, 1,000 RPMs, 5,000 RPMs. And so it's just a blur of one thing. And I think about my mind, and I think about how at times it moves at the speed of that 1,000 RPM propeller. And so as I experience that, I think about what that feels like during my day, or at times when I feel stressed or anxious or busy or overwhelmed. And I breathe in and I feel that sensation. And I feel for myself a sense of being unsettled, of being rushed, of being always behind, like I can't catch up. And the sensations that creates in my body. But then as I sit here, I slow that propeller down so that all of a sudden that feeling of being rushed, of the anxiety or anxiousness or stress that arises from having to do one thing after the other, gets slowed down. And I can see each event as an individual event. And I think about how that starts to feel for me. What happens inside my body? What happens to my physical sensations? How it allows me to loosen up, in a sense, to drop my shoulders, to loosen my muscles, to unclench my jaw. So I want to become conscious of the impact of this, the speed with which my mental processes are working, with the speed with which things come and go and how they get jumbled, and what gets lost in that process. How we can lose awareness. How we can just act almost like a machine, going from one thing to the other without recognition, and yet having all of these things impact us. So I slow that propeller down. And I think of it another way. I take out photo album, and each page of the photo album has a single picture. A picture of whatever, people that I know, events that happened in the past, pictures of scenery, whatever it is that this photo album is. And the first thing I do with the album is I open the front page, I take all of the pages together, and I flip through them really fast. And I note that in some ways, it's just a blur. I don't see anything. Perhaps I see a photo of something for a brief second that's familiar, and perhaps I see another photo where I can't tell who's in it. Perhaps I see another photo, but they're all come and gone, and they all sort of merge into one. So I stop that process, and I reopen the photo album. And I look at each individual picture one at a time. And as I look at each individual picture, I see it. I can see the detail, whether it's a picture of me, or a picture of somebody close to me, or one of my children, or a picture of a river or a mountain. I can see the detail in it, the outline, the expression on the faces, the colors in the background, the individual trees or the individual background pieces. And I look at it and I examine it and I allow myself to feel it and see it and be aware of the whole picture. And this is much like how we open up our thoughts. I think about it in the same way. As thoughts or emotions emerge from inside of me, I allow one to rise. I see it. I look at it. I investigate it. I bring it into full awareness, full focus. And then I let it go. Flipping the page of the photo album over to the next picture. And I do the same with the next picture as I do with the next thought or emotion. I allow myself to see it, to see the detail of it, to get some sense of where it's coming from, to open myself up. Because as I see more of the picture, I perceive more of my environment. I see more of the reality that I'm in. So it's not a blur. It's not moving so fast and connected to what comes next and what came before and what comes after that they all just mash together. And all that arises is some feeling of something. But if I look at each picture individually, each piece, each small moment, I can see it, I can investigate it, perhaps understand it in a way that I didn't before. And perhaps when I flip to the next picture, that picture now becomes clearer because I've sharpened my focus. It's as if I've taken a magnifying glass to something and looked at it closely so that I can see it in all its detail. Perhaps it's a photo of a mountain range that's snow-covered that I had been hiking on, and I can see the white contrasting against the rock, I can see the scrubbed trees and the green of the trees. Through the picture and through the focus, I could feel the temperature. I could sense the wind. I could see the birds. I could feel the crispness. Perhaps I can even feel the tips of my fingers getting cold. It opens us up as we examine and open our awareness. It gives us depth of something that we had closed off unknowingly. And if I think of my mind and my consciousness, and I think of it as there's what I'm aware of at the moment, and there's everything underneath it. Perhaps we think of it as the iceberg metaphor. And perhaps we are the Titanic racing towards the iceberg that we can barely see. But below the surface, the rest of it lurks. So inside of us, things are lurking. They are working. They are there, but we don't see them. We're going full speed ahead. And if we hit the iceberg without knowing it, it can cause us distress. It can cause us to feel uneasy, uncomfortable. It can cause us to crash, perhaps. But if we slow down, it's as if we can see through the water and see the whole iceberg, the whole photo, all of the pieces of it. And it gives us practice, almost like we're playing the piano, learning an instrument. Practice in seeing the reality of what's out there and not just assuming from the context because we're moving so quick. And we can see all of that, and it opens us up and allows those emotions, those thoughts, those feelings to arise and for us to investigate. And in our investigation, those unconscious emotions that often get triggered, we now can recognize them. And as we see them, rather than respond in some automatic way, through fear, through anxiety, through grief, we can respond to the emotion, to the feeling, in a way that allows us to be responsive in a way that is productive for us and provides us, in a sense, some comfort and some ability to manage our way through without stress, without blame, without judgment. And we can see more. It's as if we are sitting in a field and it's getting dark and it's nighttime almost, but not quite. The sun has just set. And we gaze up into the sky and it appears empty. Just a few high clouds, the grayness of early night. Slowly, if we perhaps gaze towards the east, the furthest part away from where the sun is setting, we start to notice a star emerge, the first star we see at night. And as we focus our eyes and our vision just on the sky, doing a slow scan, so moving slowly across the field, we start to notice twinkling and light from other parts of the sky. Another star emerges. We notice the contrast between the light and the dark. And our perception and our senses awaken. It's as if the stars were an alarm clock, and our focus was the ringing, saying, wake up and see the things you haven't seen. Open yourself up to what's there, but that we put a curtain over, that we close our eyes to, that we close our ears to, that we close our sensations to. And so we start to see stars towards the north and the south and in the west. We lay down in this field, perhaps on a nice lounge chair, perhaps with a cold drink next to us. And we look up, and for a moment we close our eyes and we take in all the sensations with the exception of our visual sight. And so we attune ourselves to the environment. We feel the night, even if we cannot see the darkness. We feel the air. We hear the wind as it blows, the breeze as it goes by. We feel it on our skins. It's like a wake-up call. Feeling without defining it. We try not to use words as we see this. We just try to be right in, as if we are part of this field, as if our chaise lounge is perhaps a plant that has grown out of the ground. And we are just laying on top of it, and we are part of the plants and the grasses that are growing out of the ground. And so we sway back and forth in a sense. We feel the movement. And then we open our eyes. Something we had, in a sense, by closing them, locked away. It's like we open up our insides in the same way. Opening up what we had locked away, put in a drawer, in a box in the basement, hidden somewhere. And we notice there are stars everywhere. There may be a cloud or two that blocks a few of the stars, but they're everywhere. The north, the south, the east, the west. Perhaps we even recognize a constellation, the Big Dipper, the Little Dipper, or any one of the others. We just take the light in and allow it to shine on us. And we try to sense the light, almost like we can feel it. Let it permeate us. Allow ourselves to touch something that is 10 light years away, 100 light years away, 1,000 light years away. Something that oftentimes we don't see or are not aware of, but is always present. And we recognize that there's no descriptive way to define this feeling that we have as the sky is bright and full of stars. Words cannot describe what we feel, but we feel it anyway. We sense it, some connection to something outside of ourselves, connection to a sense world that is outside of ourselves, a world of molecules and atoms and movement and space and even time. As we see the light, we recognize that what we see is something that was emitted before we were born, before our grandparents were born, perhaps. before the American Revolution, and back in time. But we see it now. And so in some instance, we recognize that even time is an illusion. We see the light, it was emitted perhaps 10,000 years ago, before the first civilization. Perhaps it was emitted 100,000 years ago, before the Ice Age. Perhaps it was emitted at a time when the Earth was one large continent and hadn't split apart. And as we allow that to wash over us, it's as if we've touched infinity, touched something beyond our ability to comprehend through language, through description. And even as we touch it, it's hard for us to absorb. But we try to open ourselves up, in a sense, touching what we can't see, seeing what we can't feel, feeling what we can't hear, hearing what we can't smell, and aware of what, in a sense, is beyond our awareness. And we feel both our tiny nature and our incredibly large ability. We are but a speck, a little dust ball in a universe, but yet we experience and touch the entire universe. We see it, we are a part of it, we are reflecting back something to it. It is like a constant loop, a circle, as it goes round and round and round. And so we sit in that field for a moment. We open our eyes, we are alert. And time passes as we sit, perhaps for hours, without feeling time. And slowly, we notice in the eastern sky the sun coming up over the horizon and the stars disappearing. It's too light for us to see their light, but their light is still there. It hasn't disappeared. The light waves, the photons, the particles that make up the light that we see are still there with us, but they're outside of our ability to sense them. But the sun is rising. The world is starting to light up, and the trees and the outline of the trees that we couldn't see because of the darkness now become available to our vision. So we recognize this ever-changing sensory experience that we live in, and that what we perceive as reality, what our senses can perceive as reality, is just a small bandwidth of what's out there. And perhaps we feel some sense of wonder and awe. Perhaps our focus gets expanded and we look for things now that we did not look for before, knowing they're out there. We expand our ability to experience the world and to see it in a way that was not available to us, only because we hadn't practiced it. We hadn't put our arms around it. We hadn't grasped it. So we come and we sit. We sit up from our lounge chair. And we breathe in. And we breathe out. And we settle ourselves. And we breathe in. And we breathe out and we settle ourselves again. Easily, slowly. And namaste. May the light in me shine in you.